my core quality. And I started to deal with environmental monitoring when I was in Norway. Actually, I was working in Norway in the field of electrosensitivity for a company supplying measuring material like this one and shielding materials and giving courses for the people to understand what is happening if somebody becomes electrosensitive. And when I was there, I kind of was asked to look at chemical analysis of dying plants and the rainwater that caused the plant death and soil samples, because the farmers realized they're losing parts of their harvest that year. It was 2012, but they didn't know why. So they went to the labs, and then they had the lab results and they couldn't read it. They saw values, but they didn't even know what should have been on these papers. So they addressed me as a little bit crazy scientist from Germany and asked for help. And since then, I'm working on this chemtrail topic. About chemtrails. So the first question that comes up to my mind is, where does this word come from? And this is a question that is beyond theory, because you can find out where the word comes from. And it comes from soldiers of the US Army, mostly US Air Force, who brought this word into the English language because they were sitting at the US Air Force Academy, attending classes of the chemical faculty, and one of the classes is the chemtrail class. This is kind of, when you study at this university, the class where you learn how to make chemtrails. Yeah. This doesn't touch the question, do chemtrails exist up in the sky or not? The only thing we can answer by looking at this chemtrail class is we can see this is a military technology. We don't know if it is applied or not, but we can study the technology because it's taught at the university. And basically the topics they are dealing with is aluminum coating of plastic surfaces is a big issue, and the synthesis of nylon fibers especially. This is one part of this chemtrail class. And if you want to know what this is good for, there's one military application called spoofer sprays. These are aluminum-coated nylon fibers, and they use it to hide planes from radar detection. This is not a big secret. It is officially admitted by state authorities that at certain NATO maneuvers in the sky, they use these spoofer sprays to train to hide airplanes. So this is one part that is described in this manuscript. The other half is a little bit more difficult to read and to analyze. It very, very much looks like that they're talking about spray pyrolysis, which is the production of crystalline nanoparticles in a combustion process. This is something that is done in industry when you want to produce certain types of nanoparticles. It is a very cheap and very efficient way to produce nanoparticles, and there are two ways in industry and in this manuscript. One possibility is you take like metal salts that you can solute in water, and then you take this water and run it through a ultrasound nozzle that is kind of turning it into millions of very, very small droplets. And these droplets are brought into a flame. And then the water evaporates, and the salt content of the little droplet forms a small dust particle. And if the flame is hot enough, it will eventually melt and recrystallize. And depending on the temperature and on the droplet sizes, you can create crystalline particles, you can create amorphous particles. This is one possibility that is within the range of spray pyrolysis. The other possibility is not to use water, but to directly use combustible liquids like methane or whatever. I think methane is within the US military the first choice. And then you don't even need a secondary ultrasound nozzle. You can use the ultrasound nozzles that create the vapor that is burned within a jet engine. So this is basically the chemical and technical knowledge that is taught in the chemtrail class. So we get a first idea what this technology is about. In internal papers of certain agencies. And there was one stupid mistake done by some network specialists in NASA. They published an internal paper, I think it's like 12, 15 years ago, that was classified, and it appeared for 2 days in the public domain of the main NASA website. And some people just by incident found it and copied the paper, and since then actually this is public domain. It's brought out every now and then, it's discussed by people every now and then. It's not like a text that is giving a full description of what they are doing. Basically it's just a PowerPoint that is displaying certain core terminologies. This is the paper in the original form, and the title is a little bit funny. It's Future Strategic Issues for Future Warfare. And they project this on the year 2025, as if they talk about future technologies. And then you have a very big, very small subtitle, The Future is Now. Now I'm a bit confused. Is it now, or is it in 15, 20 years that this is going to be brought out? If you go into the entire thing, you find a number of irritating statements. This is kind of the second page, the little one on top. Bots, Borgs, and humans, welcome to the future. Bots is short term for nanobots, nanorobots. Borgs is a term coming from Star Wars? No, not Star Wars. The Star Trek filming. It's the species that is assimilating other species by turning them into half computer, half being. And humans, I guess they mean themselves, the one who are not affected by those games and rule the entire thing afterwards. And they just name a number of technologies that are going to be used in future wars. And they explicitly say the war of the future is not in between countries. They expect to have a world government. So the war happening on this planet is between the government and the normal people.